Much has happened over the last 7 days for the Collingwood Football Club when it comes to trades, draft, contract offers, coaching opportunities, and let's get straight into it. Let's talk about Travis Boak. He has been lured on and sort of been chased up by the Collingwood Football Club over the last season or so in regards to a potential coaching opportunity if he was to consider retirement at the end of 2024. That is still up in the air, and Boakey has, I guess, some time to consider that. But if he does choose to retire, then a player development role has been offered by the club, which would be a huge acquisition given his experience and, I guess, consistency at the top level. If he can espouse wisdom across the board to the players and everyone else in between, then it can only be a good thing for Collingwood. And he seems to go about his footy in the right way. His demeanour, his character, and everything else that comes with that. So let's stay on the conversations of the Port Adelaide Power and talk about Joe Richards. Port offered him a 3-year contract, and Collingwood had, I guess, allegedly offered a 2-year contract, which is why Joe Richards was in limbo and is in limbo, having to consider, all right, well, do you want more job sustainability, or do you want to risk it and back yourself in and I guess lock yourself in for good form next year and prove your worth and earn a contract extension beyond that? That was the situation that Richards has been weighing up. It's come to recent light that Collingwood have matched Port Adelaide's offer now, which is huge because I think Joe Richards has a lot to offer. And with Jamie Elliott not too far away from retirement, and his versatility, his cleanliness below knees, his ball use going inside 50, I think it's somebody who we're going to be able to deploy in multiple different positions as he grows into his career and into his body. Joe Richards, he started as a midfielder in the VFL, so there's more than just this small forward role that pertains to Joe Richards in the future, which is why it's important, and Collingwood have done so and decided to match the offer that Port have put on the table. So I think if we don't end up trading, let this be the biggest win in Collingwood's off-season. Let's take that, right? And moving on to contract updates regarding Kruger, McInnes, and Dean. So Collingwood have informed them that we're going to hang tight throughout the trade and free agency window to see what Collingwood can gather picks-wise. We'll talk about the John Noble trade in a moment, but the rival clubs aren't willing to trade for these non-free agents in Kruger, McInnes, and Dean because they're aware that there's a chance that they could potentially pick up these types of players in the delisted free agency window. So that's why we're probably not seeing these players get shopped around. There's little value. McInnes, you can argue. Kruger, maybe. Dean definitely doesn't offer a lot of value on the trade table, in my opinion. So they're obviously looking to stack up some picks for the 2024 draft by the seams of it. And that is forcing the club to put a hold on talks with these Krugers, McInnes, Dean, because they're probably considering the delisting of them to make space, or even rookie list players like Kruger and McInnes potentially, if they need primary spots opened up on the senior list to allow for trades, free agency, and drafts to fulfill those spots. So you look at John Noble, right? We know that there's developments in potentially getting a pick 12 from Gold Coast, and if we can send back a second round to them, a future second, I think that might get the trade over the line. As crazy as that sounds, would I personally trade for John Noble in return the club gets a pick 12? I wouldn't do it, but Gold Coast are in a position where they are still the second youngest team in the league, right? So to use more picks in the draft, I don't think it's going to be conducive to fast tracking their progress into getting into finals and top four and trying to win a flag. So if they're in this period of, okay, we're sick and tired of patience and development and they want to get ready-made players, then you can understand the justification as to if they were to give up pick 12 because they get someone who's ready-made, John Noble, to pair up with Daniel Rioli or be that guy with Flanders if he remains in the half-back line. It depends what happens there. But if we can get pick 12 back there and then looking at pick 30, 33, I think we have 48 and 51 or something of the likes. We all of a sudden have 3 or 4 spots that we need open on the primary list to get these draft picks in. And I think we will use these draft picks. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of trading that's happening. I've talked about Denver Granger Barras recently. His talks for a contract are also on hold. So he's in a similar boat with Kruger, McInnes and Dean. So he is someone we might not even need to give up picks for because he could be potentially delisted. However, in saying that, if I was Collingwood, I'd be going to Hawthorn and say, hey, don't delist him. We'll give you a 4th rounder. And that way, you get a pick out of it. You can use that for however you please. And we get Denver Granger Barras in return. So that's the free agency conversation, potential trade option as well, depending which way you go. If he gets delisted, I don't know if Collingwood will get him in the free agency window. I'm not too sure how that would pan out. But these are the permutations that the club is going through before they consider offering contracts to Kruger, McInnes and Dean. Lastly, Harry Perryman, an unrestricted free agent. Collingwood can offer something Port can't, and that's guaranteed midfield time. Perryman is 26 years old. He's just a consistently performing player at the moment. If he gets more responsibility in the midfield, which he's been deprived of his whole career, the most midfield time he experienced was in 2022. He had averaged 30% centre bounce attendances throughout the course of that season, which is the most he's ever experienced, as I alluded to. So if he comes to Collingwood and that bumps up to 50, 60, 70%, what does his output increase to? Because in 2022, he averaged 22 odd disposals that year, got a handful of coaches' votes. So I feel like there's some untapped potential with Perryman if we do bring him over, but it's not going to come at a cheap cost. He's in a market of limited unrestricted free agents. He is the creme de la creme in this period relative to you look at years gone by. Well, does Perryman go for $850 a year in other periods where there are more more alluring players on the free agency market? I'm not too sure, but in the current economy we're in 2024, we're probably going to need to offer him $850 a year over 6 years with a trigger clause for a potential 7th year. Say he needs to play X amount of games to get that 7th year. So it's, like I said, if there's situations where we can get good players into the club without giving up picks, that is my priority. Tim Membry, Denver Granger Barras, Perryman, bring them in. Let's add these players to the existing mold, which is already well established and well performing. Just little bibs and bobs will help us go a long way next year, and invest in some youth in the draft this draft period where it runs deep. So let's see how it all goes. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Go Pies.